Thank you, Chairman Cochran, and thank you to all of you for your service. This is a very impressive group of men and women serving our country. The National Guard is a great asset that fills many roles in our nation's security, from overseas deployment to emergency response. Coming from a border state, we are also very familiar with the work the National Guard does to help Border Patrol keep our borders secure. The Boot Heel region in New Mexico borders Mexico on two sides, and for many years we have heard serious concerns about drug trafficking moving through this remote, rugged territory. The Border Patrol officers tell me they actually need more horses to patrol it. The National Guard's assets and expertise can be force multipliers to help the Border Patrol cover more territory. My staff recently attended a recent community meeting there in the Boot Heel with many New Mexico residents in attendance, and we have also heard from the New Mexico National Guard. So I have a couple of questions to follow up on this situation in the Boot Heel, General Grass. First, the National Guard counter-drug program helps bring invaluable capabilities to the Border Patrol by operating forward-looking infrared cameras, providing nighttime air support, and operating some of the Border Patrol's mobile surveillance systems. Last year, the National Guard deployed 5 teams to support the Border Patrol's mission in New Mexico, and I want to thank you very much for that support. However, I'm concerned that the National Guard's support for the Border Patrol has not been sufficiently funded going forwards. We have heard that the number of National Guard teams in New Mexico could be cut in half, and the Guard's 4 helicopters that it uses for Border Patrol operations are limited to about 6 months of flight time a year. Will you work with us to ensure that we do not see a drop-off in Guard support for New Mexico border security over the coming year, specifically its support for aviation units that provide critical remote areas as vast as the southwest border?
Senator Udall, yes, I will work with you. The issues we're dealing with on counter-drug is the episodic funding. Each year the Congress helps us. Of course, it's become it falls in under issues inside of Department of Defense of a lower level of funding that other priorities take over. We're setting at about $212 million for the full program this year. It's the most we've had in many years. But if we continue on the path we're at right now, we will come back in the Pres Bud right now at about $87 million, which would be about half of the requirement. We have submitted an unfinanced requirement there. Again, it's competing against some very high priorities within Department of Defense that deal with readiness and other issues. So we do need help in that area. We understand that about $220 million a year fully funds not just the counter-drug programs in every state, but also it funds our 5 schoolhouses. And we're expanding the use of those schoolhouses right now with both state and local as well as federal agencies.
Thank you. And I would like to focus specifically on how Guard funding works now, General Grass. My understanding is that the National Guard Bureau provides funding to all states and 4 territories to defeat drug trafficking through a threat-based resource model. And we've heard that the Guard anti-drug funding could be better allocated to stop drug trafficking at the border. And the southern border is certainly the major drug trafficking route. In the 2015 National Defense Authorization Act, there was a GAO report related to this topic which came out in October. Do you believe that the Guard's current counter-drug funding effectively allocates resources to the areas of greatest concern, such as the southwest border and other ports of entry where illicit drug trafficking is widespread? And are there any changes in the works following up on the GAO report?
Senator, I have a team made up of adjutants generals and our counter-drug coordination staff, and they develop that threat model that actually figures out how we're going to distribute that money. I think it's always good to relook that periodically. We've seen a change over years in some of the issues we're dealing with now with heroin, as well as misuse of prescription drugs. So we need to look at that model, work with both DEA, others, the Threat Integration Committee, which I serve on, working with ONDCP from the White House, and try to see if the model is still correct. Again, bringing the adjutants general into that discussion through our General Officer Steering Committee is very helpful to see what issues they're dealing with, because they're the closest tie to the local problems.
Yeah, General Grass, thank you very much, and we'd like you to consider basing future V-22s in New Mexico where they can do the kind of work we just talked about. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.